Savings rates available to you in minutes. It's totally independent, so you can trust what it says. With moneyfactscompare.co.uk, you could be earning hundreds more in interest every year.
The pig's talking again, dear.
Funny old thing.
Don't ignore better savings rates. Visit moneyfactscompare.co.uk today.
At Holton Stairlifts, we specialise in stocking and fitting stairlifts. With free home surveys, you're in safe hands with our team of experts. With a wide range of new, reconditioned and rentals available, we can provide a solution that fits the majority of UK homes.
I'm so pleased with my stairlift. It's just helped me so much.
With low monthly finance available on a range of products, get in touch today at holtonstairlifts.co.uk to find out more.
Are you a homeowner struggling with debt, at risk of losing your home? The Faster Property Solutions team have 20 years of expertise in helping homeowners to solve financial problems and become debt-free by stopping repossession, providing cash advances, paying off mortgages, clearing arrears, and much more. Don't be forced to sell your home quickly or accept less than it's worth. Speak to our expert team to find the perfect solution for you. Call or visit fasterpropertysolutions.co.uk.
Welcome to Reclaim Nation, where sustainability meets timeless elegance. Choose from on-trend designs while staying mindful of your carbon footprint, crafted from reclaimed wood with a story. Every piece adds character, every detail adds warmth, bringing life and style to your home. Visit reclaimnation.co.uk. Designer furniture that won't cost you the earth.
I love your place.
Thanks. Could you grab some carrots?
Sure. What's this?
That's for Pepper.
You keep dog food in your fridge?
It's not dog food, it's fresh pep. Real meat, real veggies.
That you feed your dog. So it's dog food.
You were so right about her.
Visit freshpet.com to find your nearest supermarket.
John Finch Computers, John speaking. Tech support. Coffee, John?
Thanks, John.
How's the Starlink looking, John? Yeah? All good, John? Nice work, John. Secure, John? John. John.
Are you all right, John?
John Finch Computers. It's not just John.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Wednesday the 10th of December, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, there's more missing migrant mayhem because the Home Office admits it doesn't know how many illegal migrants have absconded in this country at a huge cost to us, the taxpayer.
Well, the National Audit Office report paints a picture of an asylum system in meltdown, with more than half of those who've applied for asylum 3 years ago still not having had any kind of outcome.
A lot of bad things are happening to Europe. You know that their immigration policies are so bad. They're so bad. They're destroying our beautiful Europe. I love Europe. They're destroying Europe, and they better do something.
So that's the President of the United States condemning European leaders who he says are weak. And he says their countries, including this one presumably, are decaying.
Elsewhere, the Prime Minister says the powers of the European Court of Human Rights must be curbed to tackle illegal migration and to prevent voters from turning to forces that seek to divide us. Who could he be referring to?
And France's presidential frontrunner Jordan Bardella says he will stop the boats, where we heard that before, and allow Britain to push back migrant vessels. We'll fill you in on all of that.
And Baroness Anne Longfield has been appointed to lead the national inquiry into grooming gangs. She's a Labour peer and has no judicial experience.
A danger to life weather warning is in place as Storm Bram continues to batter Britain, with a month's worth of rain and gusts of up to 90 miles an hour expected today.
So, Andrew, they finally appointed a chair of this long-awaited grooming gangs inquiry.
A Labour peer who's got to resign the whip. I mean, why can't they find an independent person?
Well, is anybody independent on this issue? Sure. And a lot of people saying, why isn't it a judge? But the government say that the judge would then could confuse the police process that's already underway. And even the timings of it, I mean, it's not expected to report until 3 years after it starts, which may or may not be within 6 months. So we're still away from justice.
Which means, as I've always thought, it'll be it'll report after the next general election.
That is very true.
That's that's designed, in my view, by the government, because the report is almost certainly going to criticise many Labour-run councils for turning a blind eye to these grooming gangs because of the fact that many of the rapists were men of Pakistani origin.
And let's hope it is a national inquiry that's worth its salt. We've seen the COVID inquiry just conclude what the establishment said from the very beginning. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more punchy than that.
As ever, we want to know what you think, so please do send your views and post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Andrew, Miriam, thank you very much. The top stories this morning. A shocking new report from the National Audit Office shows that fewer than 1 in 10 asylum seekers whose claims are rejected are actually deported from the UK. Meanwhile, international talks to revolutionise how the European Court of Human Rights handles migration cases begins today. The British government is urging partners to modernise the way states tackle the continent-wide illegal migration crisis. That's as France's presidential frontrunner Jordan Bardella is moving to forge an alliance with Reform UK leader Nigel Farage to restore Europe's borders after the pair held talks in London yesterday. And a UK armed forces member has been killed in Ukraine in what the Ministry of Defence is calling a tragic accident during the testing of a new defensive system. Those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'll have more news for you at the top of the hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. Have you managed to pick up that paper yet, Andrew?
Well, it's because the Mail, it is my newspaper, but has just summed it up. The headline is Asylum Fiasco Without End. It's a devastating report by the National Audit Office which says the Home Office hasn't a clue how many migrants have absconded. Only 1 in 10 of those whose claims are rejected are ever deported. It is complete chaos. And I know a lot of this can be held at the last government, but this lot have been in for 18 months and it's got worse.
Well, and the vast majority of them, well, not the vast majority, but the majority, have not even had their claims settled. So the National Audit Office looked at a section of 5,000 people who applied for asylum in January 2023, so that was under the last government. But since then, so we're really nearly 3 years ago, that is, only 35% of them have had their appeal, have had their claim finished, if you like, being given protected status. But yeah, most of them, no final outcome still. So, of course, they're continuing to be housed in hotels at great expense. So, fascinating report.
It is. We've got Mark White here, who is our Home and Security Editor. It's devastating, this report.
Sadly, I think this National Audit Office report is just confirming what many people suspected, which is that we have an immigration and asylum system in absolute meltdown, with government departments in the Home Office that on this issue are really not fit for purpose because there are so many backlogs that they're dealing with. They introduce short-term measures under various ministers with a view to trying to deal with an element of the backlog that only creates further problems. And the National Audit Office highlighted that. It highlighted in particular the proposals or the plans from Rishi Sunak in 2023 when he wanted to deal with the asylum backlog, so they started processing claims much more quickly. But these were not robust, the decisions that were made, in the sense that they could be challenged. So what you have now, in the years since, is a new backlog of appeals. So people that entered the asylum system 3 years ago or so are still finding that they have no resolution to their case because in many respects they may be turned down, but they are then reapplying and appealing and they get lost in the system. And this is the whole issue of about not knowing how many people are actually have gone missing, because you have a system where you've got ad hoc checks on people that are supposed to check in at certain times. They don't. They get into a system as effectively a no-show, no idea where they are. In many cases, the government believe that they'll have just left the country. I find that a little hard to believe. I think they're more likely to have just disappeared off into the illegal economy.
Of course they have.
And the figures in terms of the financial cost of this are astounding. I mean, we've got nearly £3.5 billion a year for accommodation and support.
That's hotels, presumably.
Hotels and the surrounding services. And yet the amount of money that we spend on detention and removals, 45 million. Should be the other way around, surely.
Well, absolutely, it should. And we are at a stage where whatever the will of the government of the day is, you've got a system, a legal system, that seems to conspire against that particular will. That's why, of course, you've got Sir Keir Starmer today talking about the reforms that need to take place to the European Convention on Human Rights and the European Council that
government
oversees.
going to do that. Like Labour would do that with all its blimmin' human rights lawyer mates.
And what is it at the end of the day? It's tinkering that, will still be overcome by these human rights lawyers and the activists who are very good at being able to find a way forward with this. This is why I think, belatedly, the Conservatives have come to the conclusion that they need to remove themselves from the ECHR altogether, draw up a UK human rights bill and deal with it that way, prioritising the, the requirements of the government of the day to get a grip of the migration crisis.
Emma, is the fact that parts of the Home Office are not fit for purpose in this area, is it willful on the part of civil servants? Are they deliberately delaying or blocking because they don't want to deport these people, or is it just pure incompetence?
Well, I won't say incompetence. It might be incompetence in some parts. I don't think it's willful. It could be in a minority of cases. I just think they're so overwhelmed. The system is not fit for purpose. It's a system that's full of holes that allows the legal fraternity that advocate for these asylum seekers to run rings around it. And that's what's been happening. So, you've got just an absolute bureaucratic nightmare with these departments and the few adjudicators that they've got that are trying to make decisions on these individuals. And sometimes, as we heard earlier in the week, not even meeting face-to-face before making a decision, such as the caseload, the workload that they're having to deal with. So I'm not convinced it's deliberate in the majority of cases, but I do think it's, basically it's evidence of a system that is just absolutely overwhelmed.
And Mark, I know you've asked plenty of questions about the French and what they're doing to stop the boats, which is probably not enough. But one man who thinks he can sort it out is Jordan Bardella. He potentially could become French president in a couple of years. He's the front runner at the moment. And he's given an interview to The Telegraph saying that he will stop the boats. He would change the law to allow British forces to push back the boats into French waters. Do you think this is something that could work?
Well, I find Monsieur Bardella's comments fascinating, because I've been saying for years now that the French could stop this in a couple of weeks if they just had the will to say to the UK, right, when they get to UK waters, you pick them up as you normally do, then return them to our French ports. Then no migrant is going to be paying several £1,000s to a people smuggler to cross the channel only to be returned back to France. That business model would crumble. You would have to have then, a commitment that should it start picking up again, that the same policy would continue. Otherwise, the people smugglers would just be a bit patient and they would try again. But I honestly think that would work. And, OK, some people might say, well, what's in it for the French? They're accepting all these migrants back. But remember, many of these migrants are only there on the northern coast of France because they want to get to the UK.
Yeah.
So for the sake, if nothing else, for the sake of their long-suffering communities in Calais and in Dunkirk and as far down as Boulogne, surely, actually, French politicians should be saying, we'll grip this crisis, we'll sort it, we'll ensure that you don't have thousands of people camping out in your neighbourhoods, committing criminal offences, shooting each other, and also attacking and robbing local people now. It's, you know, it honestly is lawless out there.
I should think those constituencies, however they're divided, will be hugely supportive of the National Front in the presidential election next year.
There is no doubt about it. They are absolutely sick to the back teeth of what they're having to do.
They've been let down.
We understandably are very concerned about what is happening in this country, and particularly what seems to be a critical mass now of numbers of young men that are here, criminal offences alleged against these young men. We see it more and more every single day. But actually just put yourself in the shoes of some person in Calais or Dunkirk, where you have these people. We showed images the last week or the week before of rampaging mobs through the streets of Gravelines, a little town near Dunkirk, because they were trying to get off to sea. For some reason, their boat didn't launch properly, and they're fighting with the police, are smashing up local houses and cars. Thefts are going up. You know, people are having bicycles, other properties stolen. They're being robbed in the street. It is awful for these people.
And the Telegraph,
you'd have thought as a government, actually, that would be a priority for the French government anyway.
And the Telegraph reporting also today about how some of the very few women in those migrant camps are being sexually abused and treated appallingly by the men who are keeping them there and offering them reduced fees for sexual services and things like that. I mean, just a terrible situation all round.
Yeah, and let's also tell you why these women and a few children are there. It's all part of this cynical ploy by the people smugglers to, one, ensure that when they're in the channel, they can call up, as they do before they ditch their mobile phones, the Coast Guard and say, we have got women and children on board. They get an immediate response from the rescue services here. And remember the pushback tactics that we've been hearing so much about, that the French are about to enact if it's close to shore, and pushing the boats back? Well, if there is a single woman or child on board that boat, the French police won't enact that tactic. So you can see exactly where we're going to go.
So
You'll get a smattering of women and children on all of the boats.
So cynical.
But yes, you're right. It's absolutely horrific for women and children in these camps because they are lawless. And you've got inter-gang rivalries, shootings and stabbings in the camps on a nightly basis.
Mark, fascinating.
Yes, thank you very much, Mark. Well, we do have a statement from the Home Office.
You like reading this, do you?
Just because you forced me to.
Well, because I just snort with derision all the way through them.
Well,
right of reply.
That's what it is. That's what it's called.
Yes.
Thank you, Mark. Well, the Home Office said we are already making progress with nearly 50,000 people with no right to be here removed, 63% rise in illegal working arrests, and over 21,000 small boat crossing attempts prevented this year. Our reforms will restore order and control.
Yeah, and just mind what the National Audit Office says. It's out of control. Totally. Still ahead. Find out why President Donald Trump thinks this.
But most European nations, they're decaying.
And as of this week, social media has now been banned for under-16s in Australia. But how is it going to be enforced?
For that, though, if you want some of that elusive holiday sun, here's the forecast.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy thundery downpours will continue to affect Cyprus as we go through tomorrow and into Friday, but this unsettled weather, it is going to ease as we head into the weekend. And actually, across many other parts around the Mediterranean, it's looking largely fine. Some decent sunshine to be had as well. Slightly different story, though, across much of Spain. A few outbreaks of rain around, and there is a band of rain sweeping in from the west, so that's going to turn things a bit wetter across Portugal and western Spain as we head towards the end of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Meet James and James, the same business owner in parallel worlds. This James knows having the right business tech matters, so asks Technical Drive to manage all his business, IT and cybersecurity. This James did not, leaving his business vulnerable. One James sleeps well, thanks to Technical Drive. The other doesn't, worried about his recent cyber attack. No problem for this James, as he's enjoying the perks of his successful business. Drive your business forward with Technical Drive.
Some talking points. Did you know that Simply Factoring Brokers have helped us get finance to pay off all our outstanding invoices? Now this has significantly improved our cash flow.
He's doing it again, look.
Yeah, third time this week.
Still, he is not wrong. Considering our options was a complete minefield, Simply Factoring has made it both easy and transparent.
I knew this was going to happen. It's a factoring service that's so good, it makes you want to break the fourth wall.
You have a very nice house here, Miss Darcy. There's just one thing.
What's that?
Your kitchen has seen better days.
I've been meaning to do something about that. It's just I can't afford a new kitchen right now.
Just replace the doors. You can get just one if you're on a tight budget.
So I sent away for a sample. Thanks for the tip and thank you, repairmykitchen.com.
Scan the QR code to get your free sample today.
Over 12,000 families will have an empty chair at the table this Christmas. Prostate cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer in men in the UK, and most people won't have any symptoms. But it doesn't have to be this way. Just a simple PSA blood test can check the prostate health and can catch the early signs of prostate cancer. Help save a dad this Christmas. Visit the website on screen to learn more about the risk and where to get tested.
Imagine owning your dream holiday home, a lakeside lodge in the beautiful Shropshire countryside. A peaceful rural escape, around 2 hours or less from Manchester and Birmingham. This is the Lakes at Springlee Holiday Park. A limited collection of just 8 luxury lakeside holiday lodges for sale, right on the water near historic Shrewsbury. Book your viewing today, because when your holiday lodge is this close, you don't just visit, you return again and again.
At TBC Conversions, our wheelchair-accessible vehicles are crafted with the customer at the heart of everything we do. Our team have a passion to provide freedom and independence for clients and will guide you through the purchasing process. At TBC, innovation, quality and attention to detail are second nature. Our continuous rear door seal means our vehicles are warm and quiet. For a free, no-obligation home demonstration, contact us today at tbcconversions.com.
Welcome back. It's 11 minutes to 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
From today, across Australia, 1 million social media accounts are going offline as the world's first major experiment in blocking under-16s from social media has started.
So Instagram, Facebook, Threads, X, Snapchat, Kik, Twitch, TikTok, Reddit and YouTube. You've got accounts on all those, haven't you, Andrew?
I've never even heard of Kik. What is that?
Actually, I don't know. They will all require age checks. Well, Tom Jones is a Conservative councillor in North Yorkshire. He joins us now. Tom, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. There's been so much evidence out over the past few years about the damage that social media is doing to children's brains, their learning, even giving them, really awful mental health problems. Are you in favour of a ban like this coming to the UK?
No, I'm not actually, Miriam, and I'm sure we're going to have a good debate about this because I know you definitely are. But I think one of the things we haven't seen yet are the consequences of a potential ban, which might actually make those problems that you've just discussed a lot worse. Because as everybody knows, bans don't change behaviour. They're just going to drive the usage underground, and that is going to push people onto more unregulated, much harder to monitor platforms. They're going to start using VPNs, like they are with the Online Safety Act in this country now. They're going to have burner accounts. We will probably start seeing encrypted accounts. That
if bans make no difference to behaviour, do you think we should just legalise hard drugs, alcohol? Do you think we should let children smoke again from the age of 2 or 3?
Well, it's a question there you've got me there. But I think that once these profiles are hidden on social media, once they hide their online presence, adults lose the ability to kind of supervise, guide, or intervene in their online life. And I actually think a much more effective way, really, would be to kind of increase parental responsibility.
But doesn't somebody at least have to try this, Tim? Because we know, as Miriam said, the damage done to children, the terrible things they're seeing, they're being exposed to, but they're being robbed of their childhood by what they see on social media. Isn't it right that at least one country tries to see if it works by excluding them from it?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. I think somebody has to try it. I'm kind of glad it's not us, to be honest, because we don't know where this is going to go. So I think we need to be watching Australia with great interest. But obviously, this has been a long-term problem. I mean, one of the first things I watched on the internet was the execution of Saddam Hussein, and I turned out, pretty okay. But of course, my parents monitored my internet usage very carefully.
Well, I think it's a fair point. Of course, parents have responsibility, but the average teen spends 9-10 hours a day online now. If you've got 2 or 3 children, there's absolutely no working parent anywhere in the world that can monitor every single second of that use. And lots of schools force children to be on the internet, online learning all day long. And I think it's just quite naive to think that any parent can fully monitor that. One of our researchers at the CSJ the other day picked up ChatGPT. Within a few moments, just giving it simple commands, he was receiving instructions to take his own life from ChatGPT. This is the kind of harm that's out there. If it was any other kind of product, we'd have said it's unsafe for children, it shouldn't be on the market.
Well, of course, I mean, ChatGPT won't be covered by this because it's not a social media ban, and AI is a different kind of kettle of fish. But at the minute, we could just incentivize tech companies to have improved safety tools. We now have the Online Safety Act that makes people age verify.
Tim, we've done this. They've done this. I covered when David Cameron hosted a big forum at Number 10 with Google and all the social media providers. They were going to put filters in, all sorts of things. It never happened because they've got no interest in it.
Well, I mean, it is certainly something you need to take on the business model of these companies, but we do need a much more aggressive state, I think. And I think, look, having Australia that now has a ban, we now have much more leverage over these companies to say, well, we can just introduce a ban if we wanted to. So I think we need to watch Australia with very interested eyes.
Tom Jones, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are going to have to leave it there.
Yeah, well, I say congratulations to Australia.
Let's see if it works.
Absolutely. Coming up, we're going to have the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Storm Bram is now clearing away, and whilst the strongest winds have started to ease, it's worth bearing in mind there will still be some particularly wet and windy weather around, potentially even stormy weather across some parts of Scotland in particular, particularly towards the north and west. Heavy bursts of showery rain and still some strong winds continuing through much of the day. A drier story further south, but even here a few showery bursts are possible. More in the way of sunshine though, particularly across central eastern parts of England. And with that, temperatures actually still a few degrees above average for the time of year. Obviously, yes, the blustery winds will make it feel a little bit fresher than those temperatures suggest, but nonetheless relatively mild for this stage in December. As we go through the end of the day, well, it's staying pretty windy and also wet at times across much of Scotland. Outbreaks of heavy rain and gusts continuing to reach around 70, possibly even 80 miles per hour as we go through the rest of today. A drier story across parts of Northern Ireland, but quite cloudy. A few spots of rain for some parts of northwest England. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a dry story with clear skies. And with those clear skies and those winds easing out further, there's the potential that we will see a few pockets of mist and fog developing as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning, particularly in some prone spots towards central and eastern parts. Worth bearing in mind, a bit of rain also starting to push into the far west of Northern Ireland. Most places will have another relatively mild night, but where we get those clearer skies across central and eastern England, it is going to be a bit chillier than it has been through some recent nights. That rain that I mentioned then starting to push into Northern Ireland will continue its progress a little bit further eastwards as we go through the day, so much of Northern Ireland turning wet by the time we get to lunchtime. Also rain spreading across much of Scotland, especially towards the west. Staying dry across England and Wales, albeit cloud building as we go through the day, and temperatures still a few degrees above average for the time of year.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Housing Units, a home furnishing store like no other, where you'll find elegant design for every room in your home. Housing Units, where fresh ideas and inspiration are part of the experience. From our home to yours, explore new styles and offers in store and online. Housing Units, a home furnishing store like no other. Sale is now on.
You know, the Muscat story, our story, is really a classic immigrant story.
My great-great-grandfather emigrated from Eastern Europe and entered into the Lower East Side of Manhattan, where he did only what he knew, selling eyeglasses off of a pushcart.
Eventually, he opened a real shop, where we stayed in the neighborhood for 110 years.
And 5 generations later, we've moved a couple of times.
But we're never leaving the Lower East Side.
And there's nothing more New York than that.
Discover comfort and style at Home Store Interiors in Swansea. As a blue badge holder, you can enjoy VAT-free reclining chairs and much more. Visit us today for the best in-home comfort, tailored just for you. Home Store Interiors, where everyone feels at home. Home Store Interiors, Gosynan Road, Swansea.
I love your place.
Thanks. Could you grab some carrots?
Sure. What's this?
That's for Pepper.
You keep dog food in your fridge?
It's not dog food, it's fresh pet. Real meat, real veggies.
That you feed your dog. So it's dog food.
You were so right about her.
Visit freshpet.com to find your nearest supermarket.
When you've worked hard for everything you own, you need to trust the right people to protect it for your family's future. Inheritance Legal Services has been helping families with wills, trusts and powers of attorney for over 15 years. Our service is built on simplifying the will writing process with free advice. We offer a multi-award-winning fixed-fee service with appointments in our branches across East Anglia, or we can come and visit you at home. Inheritance Legal Services. Welcome to peace of mind. Call or visit today.
Looking for new tools? Well, look no further than ITS. We are the home of power tools, hand tools, workwear and all the tools you need, boasting some of the biggest ranges of DeWalt, Makita, Milwaukee and all the big brands anywhere in the UK. And our customers love us. We've got over 45,000 5-star reviews with next day delivery available 7 days a week. The next time you need tools, make sure you look at ITS.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Wednesday the 10th of December. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Missing migrant mayhem. The Home Office admits it doesn't know how many illegals have absconded in this country at a huge cost to the taxpayer.
Well, the National Audit Office report paints a picture of an asylum system in meltdown with successive governments looking for short-term fixes that are simply exacerbating the problem.
A lot of bad things are happening to Europe. You know that their immigration policies are so bad. They're so bad. They're destroying our beautiful Europe. I love Europe. They're destroying Europe, and they better do something.
Well, the US President Donald Trump condemns European leaders, calling them weak and saying our countries are decaying.
Well, who'd have thought it? The Prime Minister now says the powers of the European Court of Human Rights must be curbed to tackle illegal migration and to prevent voters from turning to forces that seek to divide us. I wonder who he means.
Meanwhile, Nigel Farage and a new alliance with the man who is likely to be France's next president. Jordan Bardella says that he will help to stop the boats. Do you believe him? Elsewhere, Baroness Anne Longfield has been appointed to lead the national inquiry into grooming gangs.
And many of the survivors only found out that she'd been selected because they were watching it on GB News. The survivors were not consulted before her selection announced in Parliament yesterday, but they will be meeting with Baroness Longfield and her expert panel today.
The budget has been a hammer blow to the Great British Boozer, many other businesses as well, and any moment now the Chancellor will face questions.
And on that point, we will now go to the Commons because the Chancellor is appearing before the Treasury Select Committee of MPs, all-party group of MPs, and they're going to be grilling her about the budget. Let's have a quick listen.
Have been accessed early as well. I want to stay on the record how frustrated I am and have been by these incidents and the volume of speculation and leaks. And that is why I'm doing something about it, because we cannot allow this to happen again. A leak inquiry is underway with my full support, being led by the Permanent Secretary at the Treasury, and we are also conducting a review of the Treasury security processes to inform future fiscal events. We also clearly need to look explicitly at physical IT security. The Treasury have asked the National Centre for Cyber Security to undertake a forensic examination of recent economic and financial outlooks. The outcome of that review, of course, will be public, and we'll write to you with the outcomes of that review.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Can I just turn to you, Permanent Secretary, about the OBR? Do you know yet who in government or which department accessed the forecast early in March?
So you'll have seen the report given to the Chancellor and yourselves. We've asked the National Cyber Security Centre to do a forensic examination of that.
You don't know the answer to that right now?
Well, I would note that a media organisation has stated publicly that they accessed the March statement.
Okay, but the report suggested that there was access from within the government circle.
Yeah, the March
don't know. Yeah, so the March report, you don't know who that was.
No, but we've got a process underway with the top level in government of National Cyber Security Centre to ascertain a forensic examination of what happened, including in March, and we'll report back publicly on that.
Are you waiting for the full access issues, or are you going to be looking particularly at that March one because it sounds like it was leaked from within government?
Well, I don't know what happened on that, and we'll see. I'm waiting. So my intention is that the review I do into budget security, but will be informed by the National Cyber Security Centre's forensic examination of what happened on IT security. It'll also be informed by the leak inquiry underway, and of course lessons learned from this budget.
Okay, just that it seems to me that could be quite quick and easy to find out which bit of government could access the forecast early in March, because that's quite a serious issue, isn't it? Because it was within government.
So to the detail, the review to you and the Chancellor suggested there was a single access in March. It suggested that might be benign. Since then, a media organisation has stated that they accessed it. So I think that's the latest of where we are. So I don't know whether that is the same. I don't know whether it's less benign than we think and that was them, or there's more access to it. But we will get to the bottom of that via this review.
Okay, and so we're waiting for the whole review to get the answer to that particular point. Okay, what's the timescale for that review? I would hope to conclude everything ahead of the spring statement, so early in the new year. Okay, well, we'll keep in touch with you on that. And, Permanent Secretary or Chancellor, do you yet know what the recruitment timetable is for Richard Hughes' successor as chair of the OBR?
Well, I met with Tom Josephs and David Miles earlier this week, along with the Permanent Secretary, to thank them for their service and for continuing in their roles. It is unlikely that for the spring forecast we have a new chair, because obviously we need to go through a rigorous process, and they are happy and confident that they can lead us through that. But of course we'll go through a rigorous process, and we will advertise the role as soon as is possible.
Okay, so as soon as possible before Christmas, early New Year?
I think it's most likely to be early in the new year. It's only a week or so until the Christmas recess, and we'll put it out as soon as we can.
That's fine. Thank you very much for that. And Chancellor, I mean, you've made a statement about leaks, and we need to put to you the questions you obviously you answered very clearly to the Shadow Chancellor yesterday in the House. But just to be clear, I think we need to just go through a few points. Are you in control of all media briefings that emanate from the Treasury and political operations inside Number 11?
Yes, and myself and the team officials are very clear about the Macpherson principles. Of course, as I said yesterday in Parliament, I did not disclose confidential information, but as I've also been clear, there have been leaks, and that's why we've set up a leak inquiry, and that is why we are doing this work. So that investigation is happening at the moment to ensure future budget security, including, as we've already discussed just now, making sure that the OBR as well. And just for your information, we are working with the OBR on IT security, and so in the spring they will publish via gov.uk rather than on their own platforms.
As
that's the
indeed
first step.
The independent report, Mikey and Martin and others indicated. So you're in control of media briefings. Are you therefore responsible for all media briefings that emanate from the Treasury in Number 11?
As I've just said, Dame Meg, there were leaks that were clearly not authorised, and that is very serious, which is why there is this review going on. But if you'd like me to address specifically the issues on the 13th of November, I'm very happy.
Well, certainly, if I can get to that. I mean, but in the lead up to the budget more generally, there's obviously a very tight circle of people who are aware of information. I mean, the information about potential rate movements for income tax is probably one of the most protected bits of information, I would imagine, in the system. Roughly how many people would be aware of that information?
I don't want to give you a number without being able to check the number of people who...
Secretary?
So the leak inquiry will set that out and set out the recommendations. The answer is that we have all sorts of security things in place for any budget. Those have been repeatedly tightened, but clearly we're going to have to revisit and reset, and it is going to be imperative to increase our security, and that's very much my intention.
Okay, and you, Permanent Secretary, said to this committee in February when we were in Darlington, that was around leaks at that time, and I quote, "You really do not want to give a running commentary on that or publish things as it goes along because that would be extremely market sensitive and therefore deeply unwelcome." I'm assuming you still agree with that
very much so.
Approach. And Chancellor, you said on the 10th of November to the BBC it would actually. So let me go into the issues around. Let's go to the 13th of November. So the Financial Times reported then that the Prime Minister and Chancellor have ripped up earlier proposals to raise the basic and higher income tax rates, according to officials briefed on the move, amid fears it would anger voters and further antagonise mutinous Labour MPs. Well, perhaps some, not all, perhaps we would agree with the characterisation, but that's what was reported. So I just don't understand why you don't know yet who those officials are. Do you know who those officials are, Mr. Bowler?
Should we go through the timeline?
So on the 4th of November, I gave a speech where I set out my priorities for the budget: to cut the cost of living, to cut NHS waiting lists, and to cut the debt and the deficit. I was clear in that speech that I wanted to build more resilient public finances with the headroom to withstand global turbulence. As you saw when I delivered my budget, I was able to increase the fiscal headroom from £9.9 billion that I delivered in the spring to £21.7 billion, so more than doubling the headroom.
Yes, we know those facts.
I was clear that to achieve those objectives, that we will all have to contribute. On Thursday, the 13th of November, there was a leak to the Financial Times about one element of the budget. The leak presented partial and inaccurate information and an inaccurate picture of the budget strategy. The implication that some could take from that story would have been that I had ditched core elements of the budget strategy that I'd set out just a few days before in that speech, and that I wasn't going to build up the headroom that I had previously said was necessary. This wasn't true. And so both the Treasury and Number 10 issued statements on the 14th of November on the record to the press to be clear that the budget priorities stood, including to build more resilience into the public finances with headroom to withstand global turbulence. It was very important because the story in the FT was both partial and inaccurate, and it was important that quickly we ensured that people understood that the strategy that I set out publicly on the 4th of November was still stood.
Can I just say, this is a story by George Parker, a very renowned political journalist at the FT, and he did say, according to officials briefed on the move. That's quite...
Well, that's Meg Hillier, the chair of the Treasury Select Committee, grilling Rachel Reeves. If you want to carry on watching that session in Parliament, if you scan the QR code that's on the screen now, you can watch that live on GBN2. But we're back here in the studio, and we've got Catherine Forster with us. Good morning.
Good morning.
A lot of the conversation there was about the leaks before the budget. Do you think we'll ever find out who the culprit is?
Well, let's hope so. I don't know that we're going to find out much this morning. Rachel Reeves said that she did not disclose confidential information, but I think the answer that she's likely to give is there is a leak inquiry going on and we're not going to get ahead of it. But, you know, the Financial Times were briefed by officials, and as we've heard Dame Meg Hillier saying then, these are pretty well-informed journalists, so I'm not sure that sort of saying that the FT's story was partial and inaccurate and sort of blaming journalists necessarily is going to cut it. Clearly, things did change and things did shift. She talks a lot about, I said I wanted to build this headroom. She may have said those words, but that was not the central message that was given out at that press conference.
I have never known a build-up to a budget like it in my journalistic career of more than 40 years, ever. It was like a shower of confetti leaked every day, and they were testing the water, testing the reaction of their MPs because they're in such a weak position, that's Starmer and the Chancellor. And she can hide behind a leak and cry if she likes. Her people leaked most of that stuff. Well, where else did it come from?
Yes. Of course they did. People within the Treasury that were privy to the discussions that were going on.
It will be a small group of people too.
And also, the fact is that people did see their headlines, did worry, did make decisions, did do certain things or not do certain things.
Some people took their 25% out of their pension because they thought it was going to...
These leaks did have an impact, and the OBR were, grilled the following week, and they said that she was accurate about the state of the public finances not being in a good place. Well, sure, we know the public finances are not in a good place, but I think many people still feel that they were misled in that taxes went up, sure, to build headroom, but very largely for decisions that the government made, choices, and including which was a lot more spending on benefits.
Absolutely right.
Can we move on to another political story, which is that the Prime Minister is urging Europe to curb human rights laws. This is apparently to halt the rise of populism, is urging European allies to have a more modern interpretation of the ECHR. How will this help? Can you tell us more?
Well, David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister, and the Attorney General Richard Hermer are in Strasbourg today at the Council of Europe. The Council of Europe's got 46 members. I think about 40 of them are there. It exists to uphold human rights, democracy, the rule of law and so on. And they are pushing for a different interpretation of the ECHR. Let's face it, these laws, these regulations were put into place at a time where the world was very different. Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, was speaking a little bit earlier on GB News. I think we can have a look at some of what she said.
today, the Deputy Prime Minister is in Strasbourg dealing with another problem with the system that we inherited, which is that the human rights framework, which is important, which protects people who need safety and sanctuary, is too often being used to game the system and prevent governments, successive governments, from getting control of the borders. Now, we think that that is a major problem that is undermining public trust. And David Lammy is over in Strasbourg today urging European leaders to work with us to make changes to that system.
So she said that it's being used to game the system and it is undermining public trust.
Have they only just noticed?
Well, indeed, this has been going on for some time. They want to look again at Article 8, the right to a family life. They want to look again at Article 3, the ban from torture or inhumane treatment. There was a letter in May from a number of European leaders saying we need to look at this and reinterpret this for the age that we are now in. But of course, as we know, with all of these big organisations where you've got dozens and dozens of countries actually making decisions or implementing decisions tends to happen at a glacial speed. So I wouldn't hold your breath, but clearly there's an intention there.
What I just find extraordinary is that the Prime Minister is urging for these changes to halt the forces of hate and division, by which he means the populist right. But what about the forces from cultures that hate women who are coming in to Europe? And we saw several cases yesterday of appalling, brutal rapes of children by people who've come across illegally
from Afghanistan. And you get judges in saying that making an allowance for the cultures they come from. Outrageous.
I thought that was so shocking.
Yeah.
Those two men that were jailed and the judge said, you know, you didn't understand, they don't understand the notion of consent in their culture. And, you know, you may be able to rebuild your life after this. I think that sort of attitude will be quite rare amongst most of the public, who will think the government's first duty is to keep its own citizens safe. And I do remember being at one of the by-elections, I think it was Runcorn when Sarah Pochin won for Reform, talking to people. It had been a safe Labour seat, and somebody said to me, and it really just struck with me, he said, the Labour are not for people like us. And I said, who do you think Labour are for? And he said, people from other countries.
Fascinating.
Wow.
That's a devastating critique, isn't it?
It is. Catherine Forster, our chief political correspondent, thank you so much. And of course, you at home have been getting in touch as well. On Rachel Reeves, Paul says, this is all pantomime. Nothing will come of this. Stephen says it sounds like Reeves is rehearsing pre-rehearsed script. And Richard says, and this is relevant to what we've just been talking about with Catherine, Trump is correct about Europe decaying and weak leaders. Well, please do keep getting in touch throughout the day.
And he was especially rude about one leader, Sadiq Khan.
Oh, of course. He can't help himself having a pop,
He called him disgusting. Wouldn't go that far, but I'm no fan. Now, just a reminder, friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll for free by scanning the QR code now. And we are asking, should sick people wear face masks at work? It comes as the NHS warns of a tidal wave of illness. It's all to do with the flu outbreak and has encouraged increased caution ahead of Christmas. Let us know what you think and we'll bring you those results shortly.
Do you think we could present Britain's Newsroom with face masks?
Tricky.
Try it. Well, if you want to become a friend of GB News for free, here's how you do it.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Well, it's time now for the Great British Giveaway, your chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year, an incredible £85,000. Here are all the details you need.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date with an incredible £85,000 to be won. That's right, £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with each month for a whole year. That could be you with your feet up, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. £85,000 is a massive amount of money and it could be yours. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now up next is the potential future French President, Jordan Bardella, the man to halt Channel crossings. We'll tell you all about his alliance with Nigel Farage.
Well, we'll be going through all that and more with the wily old foxes Mike Parry and Stephen Pound. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Getting prescription glasses from Select Specs is easier than you might think. Select your frames from our £6 range in-house brands or our extensive designer collections. Then enter, upload or email your latest prescription and our website will analyse it and help you select the best lenses and options to suit you. Click to place the order and your new Select Specs glasses are delivered right to your door. Ordering your prescription glasses is as easy as 1, 2, C with Select Specs and selectspecs.com.
This Christmas, unwrap your festive favourites.
Your wish is my command.
It's go time. Enjoy more of the latest blockbusters.
What do you say? Do we have a deal? Count me in.
Feast on Paramount Plus at no extra cost.
Amen.
And get 2 view tickets on us to enjoy a wicked night at the cinema.
I'm obsessulated.
Believe in the magic of movies. Join or upgrade this Christmas.
Moving marks a new chapter in life. Wherever you are, wherever you're going, we'll be with you every step of the way. We're here, moving with you through life's moments. For City Moves, every move matters. We're not just moving boxes, we're moving lives. Trust us to move you forward. And now, enjoy 4 weeks of storage for just £1 when you choose City Moves.
There's nothing like a cozy breakfast in familiar surroundings. Always feel at home with Belgica furniture. Sumptuous, stylish, and sophisticated. Belgica. Furniture with passion.
Action.
Now, you've probably seen some of our ads on this channel already.
So we thought it's time for you to meet the team behind them.
We're Copper House Films. We create affordable professional TV ads for all businesses.
So if you're watching this right now, chances are you own your own business.
And just as this ad has found you, we can create you an ad that directly targets your customers.
So get in touch with us today and let us make your next ad.
It's time to show the world your business.
To get £6 prescription specs from Select Specs, there isn't any catch. You don't need to use an offer code. You don't need to be a first-time customer. And with next-day delivery, you don't even have to wait. In fact, all you do need is your prescription and the internet.
Select Specs glasses from just £6 a pair, made to your prescription and delivered to your door. selectspecs.com/£6.
Welcome back. It's 10:25. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
They're here, our panellists, Mike Parry, former Labour MP Stephen Pound. We're here.
That's loud
Were
as
you
normal.
gripped by the Chancellor speaking to the Treasury Select Committee? She's baffled by all these leaks, Stephen. Who'd have thought it? All these leaks, she didn't know where they came from. They came from the Treasury, of which she is mistress.
Well, I have to say, I'm not entirely sure that she controls every aspect or every single person in the Treasury does.
Anything.
No,
I don't think she controls everything.
Yeah, well, no, hang on a second. There's a good piece in the Times today about how the city is now actually coming to realise
What's
that
a
Rachel
load of
is
nonsense.
a sane and
I saw it, some bogus report. Oh, we've got faith now in Rachel Reeves. The reason they've got faith in her is that it's gone so bad, they think it can't get any worse. That's the only faith they've got in her. I tell you what I think the Chancellor should do. Get out of that select committee, get into the high street, get yourself into a pub and find out why the pubs in this country are struggling so badly that since you came to power, Chancellor, one pub a day has closed down in this country.
Well, hang on,
500 pubs since Labour got into power. 500.
We're onto our specialist subject here.
Yes, we are.
And I spent a fair bit of time actually conducting focus groups, down the viaduct around my way. But down the viaduct? Yes, that's my local.
That's your local, is it?
Yeah, it's the best rubber dub in
Visions of you standing on this.
No, it's under the Warncliffe Viaduct. But listen, I was saying to the Governor the other day, I said, OK, when was the golden age of the British pub? When was the time when government actually worked with... Because as long as I've known, you've been complaining about the smoking ban, about the drink driving ban, about the Tide House land, with the brewers actually owning it. I've never, ever known you say, do you know, things are all right at the moment. So pubs are changing all the time. They're not the smoke-filled,
No, they're closing all the time.
Well, hang on a second, Witherspoon's open. But the idea about barring Labour MPs from pubs, I'm not...
It's fantastic.
Does
This
it
is the
apply
story we're getting round
hang on a
to.
second, how are you going to engage with the pub if you're barred from it?
MPs kicked out to the curb by frothing landlords. 50 pubs have said Labour MPs are not welcome in our pub because the Chancellor, who is part of the Labour government, is piling on taxes on the cost of labour, on the minimum wage.
When was the time when MPs were welcome?
On alcohol, on the tax on everything else they sell in the pub.
Round by with the last people who want in pubs are a bunch of MPs.
When you were an MP, did you go in your local pub?
I had occasionally did put my head through round the door.
Were you welcome?
I always was, mostly.
You wouldn't be welcome
I buy
now.
rounds from time to time. Not in any way treating, of course.
You're just as bad. You're a former Labour MP, so you're culpable as well, because you still support that regime, which is closing down the British pub.
I see this pub. The first pub to do this is actually called the Old Thatch, and I don't know if that's a tribute.
Stephen, do you think this shock rise in business rates was actually a mistake by the Treasury?
Well, we don't
they
know.
were trying to ease businesses in gently to the post-COVID regime, and this was not gentle at all.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree that we have post-COVID, and in fact, we still are in the COVID hangover period, although if you read the papers today, we seem to be entering COVID Mark II coming all over again. But look, the reality is that the business rates are crucial for the infrastructure of the local community. It is
not if they close the businesses down, which is what's happening now.
That's only part of it. If you had a pub with low business rates and the streets were full of potholes and the place was surrounded with dereliction and dirt and the bins weren't being emptied, it'd be even worse. You've got to actually see it in the round, in the totality.
Some business rates are going up 300%. And it was very underhanded because the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, who I believe is economically incapable of seeing the way to growth in this country, OK? She said, when she stood up, I'm going to sort out... I think she said she was going to abolish business rates.
She said we will replace the business rates.
Exactly.
Thank you for that voice of sanity.
But hang on. In the budget, Stephen, she said, I'm going to sort out business rates and give you all a reduction. And then at the end, a clause was put out to indicate, far from a reduction, some business rates will go up by 300%, including pubs and high street shops.
The problem with pubs today, and I was talking to the Governor actually only this week about it, it's actually the beer duty. We have got some of the highest beer duty in Europe, and I think that is one of the biggest problems. But the idea that you can actually have sort of a golden age of pubs by cutting the business rates is just nonsense. The move away from the corner pub is something which it's been happening for so long. There's very little you can do
about the tax on jobs in pubs? You know, what about national insurance increase? What about the minimum wage increase? You know that pubs now are not employing younger people, and I've noticed it, by the way, because some of the pubs that I've been going into for years, you know, it's been very good service. You go up the bar, within seconds you get served. I'm now waiting minute to minute to minute, and when I said to the boss, I said, what's going on? We simply can't afford to employ young people anymore on the minimum wage having gone up, and I'm afraid you're just going to have to wait longer for your pint.
90,000 jobs have disappeared in the hospitality
90,000
since the first budget. 90,000, Steve.
Sorry,
that's a lot. That's a small town.
When you say the hospitality industry, that includes absolutely everything from theatres to
pubs and restaurants.
Insurance.
Pubs and restaurants where young people get their first taste of work. And now it's been killed off because they don't care. Also, of course, these moralists see it as a sin tax, don't they?
Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a sin tax.
Sorry.
If you enjoy drinking, we're going to tax it. If you enjoy betting,
there is nothing more patriotic than the honest British pint of foaming lager.
Yeah. Well, I think George Harrison got it right.
It's
Taxman,
bitter, isn't it?
Yeah, well, listen, you might drink bitter, but I like the cool, fresh, crisp lager. What did George Harrison say?
George Harrison said 19 for you and 1 for me. That was the height of the tax revolution under Harold Wilson, right?
Yeah.
And it's getting as bad as that these days.
Didn't they write a song called Taxman, Mr. Wilson, Taxman, Mr. Heath?
No. He wrote about his own personal tax problems.
I'm thinking about the Beatles song.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
We've digressed a little.
Yeah,
Have we got
exactly.
time for one more story?
No, I don't think we have.
Well, you boys will
David,
take back.
Last orders, please, gentlemen. Last orders.
Yes.
Indeed.
Last orders for you, pal.
Haven't you got homes to go to?
Here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you. The top stories. A shocking new report from the National Audit Office shows that fewer than 1 in 10 asylum seekers whose claims are rejected are actually deported from the UK. Meanwhile, international talks to revolutionise how the European Court of Human Rights handles migration cases begins today. The British government's urging partners to modernise the way states tackle the continent-wide illegal migration crisis. France's presidential frontrunner Jordan Bardella is moving to forge an alliance with Reform UK leader Nigel Farage to restore Europe's borders after the pair held talks in London yesterday. And Chancellor Rachel Reeves has confirmed the Treasury is reviewing its security in the wake of the leaks that happened ahead of the budget. Opponents of the government have suggested the leaks were done on purpose for the political benefit of the Chancellor.
And he's not the sort of journalist who...
It was not an off-the-record briefing, it was a leak.
You're really clear it was a leak.
I'm absolutely categorical that that was not an authorised briefing. It was incredibly damaging and frustrating. That is why we have a leak inquiry. It was not briefing that was signed off by me, any of my ministers or officials. It was unacceptable. That is why there is a leak inquiry going on.
Those are the latest headlines. For now, more in half an hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Up next, find out why Baroness Anne Longfield being named as the grooming gang's inquiry chair has sparked outrage.
This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
This Christmas, over 800 Majestic wine experts are on hand to become your personal store sommeliers. Meet Isla from Milton Keynes, who loves to help you discover that perfect gift. And Robert from Lymington, passionate in pairing your favourite festive foods with top-quality wines. And with unmissable news, meet Eleanor from Leamington Spa, who can't wait for you to explore our exceptional fine wine range, especially as it's up to 25% off throughout December. Our store sommeliers, your Majestic Christmas.
Over 12,000 families will have an empty chair at the table this Christmas. Prostate cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer in men in the UK, and most people won't have any symptoms. But it doesn't have to be this way. Just a simple PSA blood test can check the prostate health and can catch the early signs of prostate cancer. Help save a dad this Christmas. Visit the website on screen to learn more about the risk and where to get tested.
Right, Nan. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you, lovely.
Hope you like it.
Where did you get this filth from?
I got it online at www.
I told you our products are too twisted to be on TV. You, stop filming. You get rid of that card. Mum, you should know better.
Sorry, lovely.
Do you want to see what all the fuss is about? Well, visit twisted.kids online.
From big events to intimate dining, choose the award-winning boutique hotel and events venue, the Thomas Paine Hotel. Enjoy delicious food, including dishes using local produce from local farmers. Join us for a premium champagne or cocktail, or a sweet afternoon treat. Whatever you're celebrating, celebrate with us. For your next event, contact the Thomas Paine Hotel, Thetford.
The bank's written to say our savings rate's gone down again.
Guess we'll just have to tighten our belts.
Or you could try moneyfactscompare.co.uk. It shows you the best savings rates available to you in minutes. It's totally independent, so you can trust what it says. With moneyfactscompare.co.uk, you could be earning hundreds more in interest every year.
The pig's talking again, dear.
Funny old thing.
Don't ignore better savings rates. Visit moneyfactscompare.co.uk today.
This Christmas, unwrap your festive favourites.
Your wish is my command.
It's go time. Enjoy more of the latest blockbusters.
What do you say? Do we have a deal?
Count me in. Feast on Paramount Plus at no extra cost.
Amen.
And get 2 view tickets on us to enjoy a wicked night at the cinema.
I'm obsessulated.
Believe in the magic of movies. Join or upgrade this Christmas.
Welcome back. 24 minutes to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom.
So a new chairwoman or chairman has finally been appointed to lead the long-delayed national inquiry into grooming gangs.
Yes, the former Children's Commissioner, Baroness Anne Longfield, says she will not shy away from difficult truths as she takes on the 3-year, £65 million investigation. Well, we can now speak to GBNews' national reporter, Charlie Peters. Charlie, good morning. Of course, you've been following this incredibly closely. Are you relieved a chair has finally been chosen?
Well, I think the victims will just want to see this inquiry up and running, but they've waited not just 6 months since it was announced in June, but frankly decades for this level of investigation to finally arrive. But the real questions are, before March, these draft terms of reference are out. Will they be in a fit state to gain the confidence of the survivors? At the moment, the terms of reference say they'll only look back as far as 2000. And we have so many cases that we've covered on this channel, survivors speaking to us about abuse and trafficking they endured in the decades prior to that. And also, that's really important, I think, to review further back for understanding how migration patterns and the forming of some of these clans involved in this abuse may have contributed to it being sustained and being so difficult to crack down on for so many years. That's an issue already that's been raised by many survivors, the 2000 cut-off. And also the draft terms of reference say that this is not going to be an exhaustive inquiry. Not necessarily a reassuring thing to hear either. They say they're not going to look into every area that has been affected. I'm not sure why on earth you'd commit to that limit right from the very start. Perhaps it's because the nature of this inquiry is going to be a national panel and then targeted local investigations in different areas will be selected, which has led to many survivors telling GB News, will my area be selected? Will we be so lucky as to get this inquiry, all £65 million with its powers, to come into our area and root out this evil? So lots of people hoping that they're picked, but also fearful that they won't and that other areas involved won't as well. And also, another concern that's been raised, in this terms of reference, it refers to looking at the background of perpetrators and victims, looking at religion, ethnicity and culture. But there's no explicit reference into whether those factors were motivating towards this offending. We know that so many of the perpetrators from Pakistani backgrounds were doing racially aggravated violence against these white children because they were white and not Muslim. We know that. We've seen it in the court transcripts. We've heard it from so much testimony from these victims. So focusing on backgrounds but not motivations was a concern. However, we put that question to the Home Office Minister, Mike Tapp, yesterday, and here's what he had to say.
It's also very important, and what we won't do is turn away from this, and it's about ensuring that if there is a link between ethnicity, between race, between culture, that we identify that so that we can deal with it, whether it's because one of the reasons that the perpetrators are committing this crime or one of the reasons that some have turned away from it. We need to get to the bottom of it, and I'm confident we will.
Well, that's really important. To hear him say that explicitly is a great step. That pressure has led to that clarification. But survivors won't be reassured about that until it's in the terms of reference. It's all well and good a minister saying it to our political editor in Westminster Hall. They'll need to see it in writing because the inquiry will only be guided by the terms of reference. Should also say that Mike Tapp has come in for a bit of a bruising for saying that. The leader of the Green Party, Zach Polansky, has, quote, tweeted it online, pointing to that clip that he gave us, saying that this is, concerning. Other left-wing commentators have done the same, and journalists. So he's come in for a bruising for that, which just goes to show how delicate and difficult it is to still convince people that we need to do this.
And who is setting these terms of reference? Is it Anne Longfield, Baroness Longfield, who's going to conduct the inquiry? Is it the Home Office?
So the Home Office have been preparing these terms of reference for a long time. I understand that they were prepared long in advance of her selection. But under the Inquiries Act, they can't be formally constituted until she approves it. So they've got a few months now to finalise them, and they've also got the helping hand, perhaps, of the Conservatives and their draft terms of reference that were published on Monday. We'll see if they interlink in some way and where there'll be some discrepancies between the two.
Why did they pick a Labour peer? Was it not easier that there's 820 members of the House of Lords? Quite a lot of them are called crossbench or non-affiliated. Why pick a government peer?
Well, the government will say that Baroness Longfield was picked by David Cameron to be the Children's Commissioner. She's worked for governments of all stripes. But you're right, Andrew. Her being a Labour peer from January has raised a few eyebrows. She's now resigned that whip.
You've mentioned there in that interview with Mike Tapp just how difficult some of these issues are to talk about, just how strong a reaction there can be when we start talking about the influence of Islam and ethnicity. Do you think Anne Longfield, from what you know of her record, has the strength to take on this inquiry?
That is the big question, Miriam, because a lot of the language that Baroness Longfield has used in recent months even points to a disposition towards critical race theory or far-left views on race, in particular referring to systemic racism in the education system. She has been the author of reports that refer to the adultification bias. She thinks that the overrepresentation of ethnic minorities in school exclusions, for example, could be an example of something that needs to be eradicated, could be an example of racism. If you approach these sorts of issues with that worldview, how are you going to deal when you're confronted with Pakistani Biradari clans who target white girls because they are white and considered fair game? It'll completely rupture her worldview if that is what she believes. She'll have to get real very quickly about that situation. She's got two people on an expert panel to support her, and I think because the pressure on this is so great, people will not want to see anyone shying away from those difficult issues. Perhaps she'll have a change of perspective.
In the vernacular, she's a bleeding heart liberal. And I'm not sure it's a bleeding heart liberal we want conducting this inquiry.
Well, the two potential chairs that they had lined up before in October, Jim Gamble, one of them a former police officer, said he wanted to treat this issue as organised criminality, which is an approach that many survivors also recognise. Perhaps with Anne Longfield, a Labour peer who's worried about anti-racism needing to be a part of our mentality and education, could find it a bit difficult when she confronts the reality of this crisis. We'll be keeping an eye on that.
We'll see. Maybe have a Damascene conversion. Well, thank you very much, Charlie. Still ahead, Chancellor Rachel Reeves says there were too many inaccurate and damaging leaks in the run-up to the budget as she takes questions from fellow MPs. We'll be bringing you the highlights.
Up next, Britain's broken asylum system has cost you, the taxpayer, £5 billion last year. Can it be fixed?
But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy thundery downpours will continue to affect Cyprus as we go through tomorrow and into Friday, but this unsettled weather, it is going to ease as we head into the weekend. And actually, across many other parts around the Mediterranean, it's looking largely fine. Some decent sunshine to be had as well. Slightly different story, though, across much of Spain. A few outbreaks of rain around, and there is a band of rain sweeping in from the west, so that's going to turn things a bit wetter across Portugal and western Spain as we head towards the end of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
This Christmas, unwrap your festive favourites.
Your wish is my command.
It's go time. Enjoy more of the latest blockbusters.
What do you say? Do we have a deal?
Count me in.
Feast on Paramount Plus at no extra cost.
Amen.
And get 2 view tickets on us to enjoy a wicked night at the cinema.
I'm obsessulated.
Believe in the magic of movies. Join or upgrade this Christmas.
Meet James and James, the same business owner in parallel worlds. This James knows having the right business tech matters, so asked Technical Drive to manage all his business, IT and cybersecurity. This James did not, leaving his business vulnerable. One James sleeps well, thanks to Technical Drive. The other doesn't, worried about his recent cyber attack. No problem for this James, as he's enjoying the perks of his successful business. Drive your business forward with Technical Drive.
You know, the Muscat story, our story, is really a classic immigrant story.
My great-great-grandfather emigrated from Eastern Europe and entered into the Lower East Side of Manhattan, where he did only what he knew, selling eyeglasses off of a pushcart.
Eventually, he opened a real shop where we stayed in the neighborhood for 110 years.
And 5 generations later, we've moved a couple of times.
But we're never leaving the Lower East Side.
And there's nothing more New York than that.
With a whopping 1-year warranty, I feel like part of the family.
With over 300 cars in stock, finding a reliable motor for me and Bruce was easy.
All brands, all styles, smart for choice.
1 year of roadside assistance, great for an adventurer like me.
Reserve online and it's delivered to your doorstep. It's the future.
For the young at heart, all this and a 116-point check on all cars.
The Car Warehouse, Bridgend and Swansea. Buy with confidence.
Bruce!
Imagine owning your dream holiday home, a lakeside lodge in the beautiful Shropshire countryside. A peaceful rural escape, around 2 hours or less from Manchester and Birmingham. This is the Lakes at Springlee Holiday Park. A limited collection of just 8 luxury lakeside holiday lodges for sale, right on the water near historic Shrewsbury. Book your viewing today, because when your holiday lodge is this close, you don't just visit, you return again and again.
It's 10:47. Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Now, this is a shocking report from the National Audit Office shows that fewer than 1 in 10 asylum seekers whose claims are rejected are ever deported from the UK.
Well, it goes on to find that the Home Office has no idea how many asylum seekers have gone missing since arriving in this country.
And the cost of supporting people seeking asylum hit £5 billion last year. And then there are all the additional costs for such things such as legal aid, which will run to tens of millions of pounds. Our Home Security Editor Mark White's read the report from cover to cover. It's a shocker.
Well, and the thing is, actually, you know, legal aid aside, they have no idea what the true cost for housing asylum seekers in this country is, because as well as the accommodation and legal aid and the direct payments they get, there's all the wraparound services that anybody in this country would get. They go into a local community and they partake, you know, and are entitled to care within the NHS, education within the school. All these things mount up. So there's a wider societal cost that is just not known, it seems, from a governmental point of view, just how much it will cost, but it will be many billions more.
There'll be some people watching this and listening to this think, I couldn't get legal aid for some perfectly legitimate case. But they see asylum seekers never paid a penny into this country, just take, get legal aid.
And it's that type of issue that just really increases the anger that people are feeling all across the country with successive governments who feel are just not getting on top of this situation. Now, in terms of those who've gone missing, again, they just don't know, because the system is often that, you know, while your appeal is ongoing, even if you've been rejected for asylum, you're on bail, and you're on bail with a view that at some point there will be a conclusion to your appeal, and then you'll be earmarked for removal or not. And quite often these people just kind of disappear into the hinterland. The Home Office say that they believe quite a few of them have left the country on their own accord. I was saying last hour that I just don't think that is probably the case in the majority of cases. How can I prove it?
It's wishful thinking, isn't it?
We have
Wishful
about
thinking.
1.5 million illegal immigrants in the UK, maybe even more than that, because we don't know the exact figure, but it's a very significant number working in the illegal economy. We're told about 50,000 odd, maybe a bit more, in the way of immigration raids that took place last year, and a number of arrests, about 10,000 or so as a result of that. That is just a drop in the ocean of what is the illegal economy out there, with individuals who, for the most part, just get away with it because they're not getting caught. Occasionally, they get caught. But you know what happens to them when they get caught by immigration enforcement? The vast majority of them then get bailed while attempts are made to remove them from the country. Some of the more high-risk offenders might go to an immigration removals centre, but we only have a limited capacity there. So the vast majority go on bail, and some of them disappear again. It's funny.
One of the suggestions of Jordan Bardella, who potentially could be the next French president, is for asylum claims only to be allowed to be made outside of the country itself. So he's saying in France, which is his particular situation, he would only allow asylum claims to be made at French embassies around the world. Now, the Hungarians have done this, their embassy-only policy, and they've reduced asylum claims and illegal immigration almost to zero. Do you think that's something the British government would ever consider?
Well, it kind of fits in a little bit to this category about legal routes, where people can apply outside the country. And we have certain bespoke schemes to deal with certain international crises. Like we had it for the revolution and war in Syria. We've had it with Afghanistan. But by and large, you have to set foot in this country before you can claim asylum. There is, I think, potential for it to work as a safe and legal route if someone is applying from their home country or a third country, that would then give the government control over how many people it decides to accept.
Yeah.
The real concern that people have about a safe and legal route like this is, yeah, you could get, hundreds of thousands of applications. What if they're all actually eligible for coming to this country? Then you suddenly have an asylum system that's not just out of control, it's just completely unmanageable for the country. So that's one of the risks of having applications outside the country, because if someone applies and they actually, in the eyes of the law, have a good case for asylum, then
which, of course, is the argument for either reforming or leaving the ECHR, because that gives us more power to refuse claims.
Well, exactly. And this is, I think, why belatedly the Conservatives, and certainly Reform, have come to the conclusion you've got to come out of the ECHR, you've got to model then a human rights bill that gives primacy to the government of the day in terms of their economic policy, because at the moment that just isn't happening, and you're getting many of these cases where intervention is being made on behalf of the migrants by fully versed, very capable human rights lawyers and the activists that back them. And they are successful in so many instances.
The Home Secretary, of course, came in with a bang, didn't she, Shabana Mahmood, talking tough. She's gone very quiet.
Well, listen, to be fair to Shabana Mahmood, I actually don't doubt her sincerity to get a grip of this, because to me, I see, second-generation British Asian, a bit like Priti Patel and Suella Braverman, whose parents came to the country legally, who made a success and a life for themselves, and they see people breaking into the country, and I think they feel a determination to do something about it.
Mark White, thank you so much. The Home Office Tuesday, they are making progress on this, with nearly 50,000 people already removed since the Labour government came into power. So hopefully more progress ahead. But don't go away.
That statement would have cheered people up. No, it won't.
It would. Stick with us. We've got lots to come.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Storm Bram is now clearing away, and whilst the strongest winds have started to ease, it's worth bearing in mind there will still be some particularly wet and windy weather around, potentially even stormy weather across some parts of Scotland in particular, particularly towards the north and west. Heavy bursts of showery rain and still some strong winds continuing through much of the day. A drier story further south, but even here a few showery bursts are possible. More in the way of sunshine though, particularly across central eastern parts of England. And with that, temperatures actually still a few degrees above average for the time of year. Obviously, yes, the blustery winds will make it feel a little bit fresher than those temperatures suggest, but nonetheless relatively mild for this stage in December. As we go through the end of the day, well, it's staying pretty windy and also wet at times across much of Scotland. Outbreaks of heavy rain and gusts continuing to reach around 70, possibly even 80 miles per hour as we go through the rest of today. A drier story across parts of Northern Ireland, but quite cloudy. A few spots of rain for some parts of northwest England. Elsewhere across much of England and Wales, it's a dry story with clear skies. And with those clear skies and those winds easing out further, there's the potential that we will see a few pockets of mist and fog developing as we go through the early hours of tomorrow morning, particularly in some prone spots towards central and eastern parts. Worth bearing in mind, a bit of rain also starting to push into the far west of Northern Ireland. Most places will have another relatively mild night, but where we get those clearer skies across central and eastern England, it is going to be a bit chillier than it has been through some recent nights. That rain that I mentioned then starting to push into Northern Ireland will continue its progress a little bit further eastwards as we go through the day, so much of Northern Ireland turning wet by the time we get to lunchtime. Also rain spreading across much of Scotland, especially towards the west. Staying dry across England and Wales, albeit cloud building as we go through the day, and temperatures still a few degrees above average for the time of year.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
This Christmas, unwrap your festive favourites.
Your wish is my command.
It's go time. Enjoy more of the latest blockbusters.
What do you say? Do we have a deal?
Count me in.
Feast on Paramount Plus at no extra cost.
Amen.
And get 2 view tickets on us to enjoy a wicked night at the cinema.
I'm obsessulated.
Believe in the magic of movies. Join or upgrade this Christmas.
Moving marks a new chapter in life. Wherever you are, wherever you're going, we'll be with you every step of the way. We're here, moving with you through life's moments. For City Moves, every move matters. We're not just moving boxes, we're moving lives. Trust us to move you forward. And now, enjoy 4 weeks of storage for just £1 when you choose City Moves.
There's nothing like a cozy breakfast in familiar surroundings. Always feel at home with Belgica furniture. Sumptuous, stylish, and sophisticated. Belgica. Furniture with passion.
Introducing Leedon's, our beautiful residential park nestled in the heart of the Cotswolds. Close to the picturesque village of Broadway, Leedon's offers luxurious park homes for the over 50s. Whether contemporary or traditional, our bespoke and ready-made homes have a range of landscaping options. And our clubhouse offers numerous facilities, including a large indoor pool and bowling green. Call now or pop along to see a selection of homes for yourself.
Buying a recliner chair can be a real hassle. At Channel Recliners, we get it. No pushy sales tactics, just a stress-free experience. Each chair is expertly measured by our qualified professionals to ensure it's a perfect fit for you. And here's the best part, honest, upfront pricing with absolutely no hidden fees. Call us today and schedule your completely free home assessment service.
We've got a special gift for you.
Oh, what's this? Oh.
Mum, you're going to be a nan. This Christmas, give the gift of a lifetime. Visit imaginator.co.uk to book your scan today.
Good morning, it's 11 o'clock on Wednesday the 10th of December, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, more missing migrant mayhem. The Home Office admits it doesn't know how many illegal immigrants have absconded in this country at a huge cost to you, the taxpayer.
And it comes as an alliance is formed to stop the small boats fiasco. Nigel Farage is teaming up with French presidential frontrunner as they plan a plot to halt the Channel crossings.
That's right. Nigel Farage and Jordan Bardella from France's National Rally plan to end the cross-channel crossings, of course, if both win power in their respective countries. Can this Franco-British alliance work?
A lot of bad things are happening to Europe. You know that their immigration policies are so bad. They're so bad. They're destroying our beautiful Europe. I love Europe. They're destroying Europe, and they better do something.
Well, the US President Donald Trump condemns European leaders, calling them weak, and says their countries are decaying.
Rachel Reeves, she's the Chancellor, remember, says there were too many inaccurate and damaging leaks in the run-up to the budget. She's questioned about them by a committee of MPs.
And the budget has, of course, been a hammer blow to the great British boozer, so we're checking in with pubs across the country this morning.
Well, here in Derbyshire, the pub landlord tells me they've not made a single penny of profit so far this year and worries the next few months will be even more challenging.
So we've learnt...
That's clever. I say that's clever for Farage to get in there.
That's right. We've learnt from the Telegraph that Farage had lunch with Jordan Bardella yesterday. Now, he's only 30.
Yeah.
He could become the next president of France.
Yeah.
Because the leader of the National Rally, which used to be known as the National Front, Marine Le Pen, has been banned from standing by one judge in France. So she's the leader of the most popular party and she's not allowed to stand for election.
Which will be give a huge boost to her party in the election.
It could well do.
And it's because, allegedly, she embezzled public money from the European Parliament when she was an MEP, which went not to her pocket but into her political party's coffers. She denies it.
But one judge has made this decision that the most popular politician in France is not allowed to stand, which is extraordinary.
It's so political. A judge doing that, and in this country, of course, we've got our Prime Minister banning elections.
But it's extraordinary because Jordan Bardella is part of what Keir Starmer is calling the forces of hate and division, and yet parties like his are on the rise all over Europe.
And they could be the party that actually finally solves the small boats crisis.
Yes, because what he said was incredibly sensible, which is if we accept that pushing boats back in the Mediterranean is the right way to stop illegal immigrants, then how on earth can the French defend not allowing Brits to do the same in the Channel? It's very sensible.
So the Americans would stop crossing the Channel, which means they would also stop congregating in places like Boulogne and Calais, which have been turned into cesspits, frankly. They are appalling.
So that would be a win for French residents as well.
Of course.
How sensible. It'll never happen.
We always want to know what your thoughts are on all your talking points today, so do let us know in the usual way. But first, here's the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Andrew, thank you very much. The top stories. A new report from the National Audit Office shows that fewer than 1 in 10 asylum seekers whose claims are rejected are actually deported from the UK. The report is also heavily critical of Home Office monitoring, stating that robust data gathering is not a priority and there's a culture of tolerating and working around data that's not fit for purpose. It goes on to find the Home Office has no idea how many asylum seekers have gone missing since arriving in the UK. The findings raise fresh questions about the effectiveness of the government's immigration policies and the scale of unresolved asylum cases still residing in Britain. Meanwhile, international talks to revolutionise how the European Court of Human Rights handles migration cases begins today. The British government is urging partners to modernise the way states tackle the continent-wide illegal migration crisis. Sir Keir Starmer has called for a tougher approach to policing Europe's borders ahead of a meeting between leaders to discuss a potential shake-up of the ECHR. His deputy, David Lammy, will be in Strasbourg today with the fellow European ministers to discuss reforms of how the agreement is interpreted in law across the continent. The Prime Minister has urged fellow members to revise how the treaty is interpreted to prevent asylum seekers using it to avoid deportation and as a means of winning against populist political opponents who he describes as the forces that seek to divide us. The Conservatives and Reform UK have both said they would leave the ECHR if in power. That's as France's presidential frontrunner Jordan Bardella is moving to forge an alliance with the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage to restore Europe's borders after the pair held talks in London yesterday. Mr Bardella, the leader of the National Rally Party, pledged to change France's border policy to support Britain in tackling the Channel small boats crisis should he secure victory in next year's election. In other news, a UK Armed Forces member has been killed in Ukraine in what the Ministry of Defence is calling a tragic accident during the testing of a new defensive system. The service person was observing Ukrainian troops away from the front line when the incident happened yesterday morning. Defence Secretary John Healey says he's devastated, with condolences also paid by Labour. The MOD says the death is not believed to be the result of hostile fire. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has confirmed the Treasury is reviewing its security in the wake of the leaks that happened ahead of the budget. It follows the early release of information about the fiscal event. She's insisted a Financial Times story which revealed she had dropped plans for an income tax rise in the budget was based on a leak rather than an authorised briefing.
And he's not the sort of journalist who...
It was not an off-the-record briefing, it was a leak.
You're really clear it was a leak?
I'm absolutely categorical that that was not an authorised briefing. It was incredibly damaging and frustrating. That is why we have a leak inquiry. Okay. It was not briefing that was signed off by me, any of my ministers or officials. It was unacceptable. That is why there is a leak inquiry going on.
And speaking on her budget announcements this morning, the Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride told GB News that Rachel Reeves has misled the British people.
Back in the Labour Party manifesto, they wouldn't be raising taxes on working people. That's precisely what she did in the recent budget. In her first budget, of course, when she did the same thing, she said she wouldn't be coming back for yet more tax, and she has. And what are the choices the government's taken? Well, the Chancellor has raised taxes on hard-working people in order to put up the benefits bill, and most people feel that that is the wrong choice. There's also the issue of having misled the public at a press conference on the 4th of November as to the state of the finances, the public finances.
In other news, US President Donald Trump has encouraged the Prime Minister to exploit the great asset of the North Sea. This is the moment Donald Trump directly attacked Sir Keir Starmer's energy and migration policies at a rally in Pennsylvania last night.
UK has to, if they don't go back to oil, I think a lot of bad things are happening to Europe. You know that their immigration policies are so bad. It's so bad. They're destroying our beautiful Europe. I love Europe. They're destroying Europe, and they better do something. I'll give them just some free advice. I'm focused here, but I give them free advice. They better be careful because immigration and energy are going to destroy Europe.
In other news, the Prime Minister has warned of a lost decade of kids as the government unveils a 10-year youth plan aimed at tackling what it calls a crisis of isolation. Sir Keir Starmer says improving prospects for young people is this generation's greatest responsibility, pledging £500 million to revive youth services and build or refurbish 250 centres. The plan includes 50 youth futures hubs by 2029, expanded mental health and life skills support in schools and training more youth workers and volunteers. Ministers say the strategy will give 500,000 more young people access to a trusted adult and help protect them from online isolation. And Anthony Albanese says it's a proud day to be Prime Minister in Australia as a world-first ban on social media accounts for under-16s comes into effect. Instagram, Facebook, Threads, X, Snapchat, Kik, Twitch, TikTok, Reddit and YouTube are among the platforms required to enforce the new legislation. But some teenagers say they still have access to their accounts. One 13-year-old claims she used a picture of her mother to get round the ban. The government says the ban is aimed at protecting young people from harmful content, but critics suggest it could isolate vulnerable teenagers. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. More from me in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3311 and €1.1441. The price of gold is £3,151.69 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is currently at 9,654 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good morning, welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. You're watching and listening live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. And lots of you have been getting in touch on gbnews.com/your say. Lots of comments about the grooming gang inquiry. Sure. Of course, we've learnt that there is now a chair, Barrett's and Longfield, and there are some terms of references. But Gary says any inquiry should have the general public on the bench so we know for certain the truth is being told. Mike says the inquiry, sadly, will probably be another rushed job.
I don't think it will be rushed. That's the point. I don't think it's going to happen for over 3 years, which means we won't get it before the next election.
It's very true.
Which is it's an outrage.
It is.
When some of these people were victims of grooming gangs 30 years ago, and they'll still be waiting for another 3.5 years.
And the terms of reference say that they're only going to start investigating back to the year 2000.
Yeah.
But we know for a fact that there was... some of these crimes were going on before then. I suppose the only advantage for it reporting after the election is, will it make it easier for the panel to come out with some very difficult recommendations? Well, because they know the current government won't have to implement
But the panel should be making difficult recommendations irrespective of who's in power.
Yes.
And they've also got they're going to have some uncomfortable things to say about the Pakistani community.
Absolutely. Well, Joyce has commented on the migration mayhem. She says, don't get me wrong, Mark White is one of the good guys,
he is.
But I kind of wish we saw less of him. What he exposes always makes my blood boil. I think she means she loves seeing Mark, but she wishes there wasn't so much terrible news.
Yeah, and he's got his finger on the pulse, and he just knows what's going on in the Home Office. It's chaotic. I was in the Commons when John Reid gave evidence to a Home Affairs Select Committee and said the Home Office is not fit for purpose. That was in 2006, 19 years ago. It still isn't.
I just think their job is too big, and I think, like other countries, we should have a Department for Immigration.
Yes.
And then a Home Office that looks after the police and the judicial system. Because there's just too much work to put all those things together.
I mean, they've taken stuff out before, because remember, once upon a time, prisons came under the Home Office.
Oh, yes, before the Ministry of Justice, that's right.
Yeah, so they've tried to reduce the workload, but it's just hopeless. And I think there is I'm convinced civil servants deliberately frustrate the will of governments. Deliberately.
Quite possibly. Well, a reminder that friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll for free by scanning the QR code on your screen now. We're asking, should sick people wear face masks at work? Well, this comes as the NHS warns of a tidal wave of illness. I think there's a lot of flu around this year.
There certainly is.
And it encourages increased caution ahead of Christmas. I didn't think they worked. But anyway, let us know what you think and we'll bring you the results.
Because there was that argument about COVID that we all wore our masks faithfully because we were told to do that group thing. And then there was evidence that actually they did very little to stop the spread. Right. It was more about making people feel they were doing something.
That's right. I think if I remember rightly, the aerosol particles are something like 9,000 times smaller than the gaps in the mask. Although masks do stop coughs and sneezes spreading. They don't go as far.
And of course, and if anybody wasn't wearing one on the tube, hell to pay.
I know.
We all did it.
Some politicians are caught out accidentally forgetting.
Would we do it again?
Gosh, I hope.
We know who wouldn't. My former colleague here, Bev Turner.
Yes, that's right. She's not a fan of lockdown.
Imagine what she's saying about the face
Well, none of us
mask
are a fan of lockdown. It was
it's terrible.
In so many ways.
We should never have had the second one at all, and we should never have closed the schools.
Absolutely, that is certainly true. Well, if you want to become a friend of GB News for free, here's how you can do it.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Well, the Prime Minister is calling for the powers of the European courts to be curbed to tackle illegal migration.
He says, he's written this in The Guardian, where else, we must protect our borders to defend our democracy. We've been saying that, Prime Minister, for months, years, and that he wants to shake up to prevent voters from turning to forces that seek to divide us. Who's he talking about?
I don't know.
Let's ask our GB News political editor, Christopher Hope, because he'll know. Christopher, morning. Who's he talking about? Who are these forces trying to divide us?
You know jolly well, Andrew, and morning, Miriam. He's talking about Nigel Farage. He's talking about Reform UK. He sees this attempt to reform the European Convention on Human Rights. This, of course, this treaty developed by British lawyers back in the early 50s, which is now used by people who are here illegally, not to be sent back to where they came from. Various articles there, right to a family life, a right to be treated appropriately when you go wherever you're sent to. All these things can be a problem for judges, and what they're trying to do is tweak it. What's happening today is there's 40 of 46 Council of Europe members are meeting. Now that's almost twice the size as the European Union. You remember how difficult Brexit was then, but they are hoping to tweak the ECHR, this treaty, to make it easier to send migrants back to where the country of origin. They signed a letter back in May saying that they wanted the scope of the treaty to be limited. Alain Berset, he is the Secretary General of this Council of Europe body. He says this is our chance to bring that discussion back to where it belongs, within the walls of the Council of Europe, and chart a way forward. What we need is dialogue, cooperation and shared solutions. And that article you mentioned there by the Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, and our Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, they say that ECHR reform is the best way of fighting against the forces of hate and division, they say, and listening to legitimate forces and acting on them. That's the plan, but talks tend to move glacially slowly. Now, I remember back in, I think it was 2017, at that election, Theresa May talked about ECHR reform as well as almost finishing the work done by Brexit. It's about sovereignty, this issue. It's a bit of a dry, dusty area for many viewers and listeners, but what it's about is giving our judges in this country the right to act as they see fit, and not to rely on measures or rulings taken by judges in Strasbourg. We've seen it previously when the Tories tried to get people flown to Rwanda, deported to Rwanda, because they were here illegally. That failed because of the Strasbourg judges.
Christopher Hope, thank you very much for that.
And the Chancellor is, I wouldn't say it's a grilling, as it says in the autocue. She's being lightly toasted, I would say, by MPs at the Treasury Select Committee, although I'm a big admirer of Dame May Killier, actually, who is the chairman of the committee, but she's being quizzed about the budget and the extraordinary blizzard of leaks that took place before the budget.
She's also being grilled about the fate of Britain's pubs, because they say they're really the ones who are being put on the rack, because her changes to business rates and the rising minimum wage have left many landlords warning they simply can't survive. Some pubs facing rate hikes of 400% or more.
Shocking. They don't seem to understand, this government, that pubs are an important part of our culture. Village life, town life, they're really important.
They're closing very
And they're closing, well, Mike Parry was pointing out 500 since the general election. One a day. We're going to go to Derbyshire and speak to GB News national reporter Will Godley. Will, good morning. You're in a lovely pub. Tell us more. Good morning.
Well, Andrew, Miriam, good morning. Yes, from Derbyshire here in Melbourne, a community of about some 5,000 people, and this is the Melbourne Inn, a really important pub for the community here. But the pub landlord says that for the last year, they've simply not yet made a penny of profit, despite the fact that we're still some 2 weeks left of the year. It's a really challenging time to be a pub owner, and with the budget and all the changes announced just 2 weeks ago today, that's only going to get worse. Let's speak now to Deej McCrackle, the pub landlord here. Just how challenging has the last year been for you?
It's been extremely challenging. We've seen a lot of people not coming in because of how much price rises are going on nowadays. It's very difficult. We're trying to get people in. However, what needs to happen is instead of these price freezers, we need some sort of price reduction in things just to get people through the doors.
And Deej, you're not alone in terms of pubs not making a profit. A recent survey from the British Institute of Innkeeping found that less than 1 in 10 landlords thought that they would be making a profit next year after the changes announced in the budget. How concerned are you that things are only going to get worse for you?
I'm extremely concerned. It's going to be very, very difficult, very challenging. There's going to be lots of price rises coming with more business rates, all that sort of stuff. I just don't see how well we're going to do. I said we've signed up for 5 years. We're coming up to our first year in business here. Like I said, we've not made any money. Any money we have made is all going to go back into the pub to reinvest, to try and get people through the door. But the more price hikes going, I can't see people being able to come in anymore.
Indeed, you were telling me it's so important for you to bring people into the door, to be serving the community. If you simply weren't able to open anymore, what kind of an impact would that be having on the community of Melbourne here?
100%. It's the old thing. If we're not here, people are going to go to the supermarkets. People are going to buy the cheap drinks. People are going to go in their own homes, in their own behind closed doors. There's going to be no social aspect to things anymore. People need to come out to the pubs. People need to be socialising with people. And as a responsible landlord, it's all this. If people are getting too drunk, if responsible landlords are here to say, "Hang on a minute, you've had enough." But if we haven't got that, people, like I say, behind closed doors, they're just going to be drinking. Nobody's keeping an eye on them. Mental health states are going. At least with community, you can look out for each other, and you can do something about it.
OK, Deej, thank you very much indeed. Not only concerns from the financial side of owning and running a pub, but also the impact on the community here as well. Well, the Treasury have said in a statement that we're protecting pubs, restaurants and cafes with the budget's £4.3 billion support package. And they also said this comes on top of our efforts to ease licensing, to help more venues offer pavement drinks and put on one-off events, maintaining our cut to alcohol duty on draft pints and capping corporation tax as well. But here in the Melbourne Inn, looking very, very festive. They might be hoping on the 25th of December to be unwrapping some far better news about the price of beer and the price of alcohol that can help them to make a profit next year.
Will Godley, thank you so much for that report. And we were just saying what a nice pub that looks.
It looks a lovely pub. I think Mike Perry had a very good point. Chancellors should get out of Parliament and go and spend a bit of time in pubs. They should all go in incognito. I mean, the Chancellor's too well known. Send in ministers who aren't well known and just see for themselves what these pubs are up against. Otherwise, we're going to lose them. And once they're gone, they're gone. They'd be turned into flats. No good. Now, time for the Great British Giveaway. This is your chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year. It's £85,000. Here's all the details you need for a chance to make it yours. Good luck.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date with an incredible £85,000 to be won. That's right, £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with each month for a whole year. That could be you with your feet up, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. £85,000 is a massive amount of money and it could be yours. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, the US President Donald Trump has slammed European leaders as weak. He says our countries are decaying. Is he right?
You should hear what he said about the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, of which I am not a fan, as you may know. We'll be going through that and a lot more with the broadcaster Mike Parry and the former Labour MP Stephen Pound, our very own Staten and Waldor. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
That dripping tap, those papers to file, the garage to declutter. We all have things we put off in life, but we always feel so much better when they're done. Like getting your funeral plan in place. And by choosing Pure Cremation, Britain's favourite funeral plan, you can rest assured that everything will be taken care of and your family and friends won't be left with the emotional and financial burden when you're gone.
We've chosen pure cremation as they make it so easy. We don't want a big, expensive funeral.
Nobody likes going to a funeral.
We want a celebration of our lives.
And with our pure cremation funeral plan in place, we've made our wishes clear to our family, so they don't have any difficult decisions to make, and they're protected from rising funeral costs. It's just another thing ticked off the list.
Next to be ticked off is Mexico.
Pure cremation is more affordable than a traditional funeral plan, and you can choose monthly instalments if you like. And unlike an over 50s life insurance plan, the funeral is 100% guaranteed. For your free quote, simply call us on 0800 470 2389 or search Pure Cremation. At Pure Cremation, we're here for you. When someone dies, we collect them and take them into our care. We perform a respectful cremation and return their ashes to loved ones in an urn, personally and by hand. There's no right or wrong way to say goodbye, but many people prefer that their loved ones have time to grieve and can hold a service or memorial in their own way when they're ready, at a place of their choosing. Taking out a funeral plan now means you can rest easy, so your loved ones don't have the stress or financial burden in a time of grief.
I didn't want to talk to my family about my funeral. Who does? So I took the decision to talk to Pure Cremation, and I'm so glad that I did. I've got a plan in place with affordable monthly payments, and I'm able to tell my family that it's all sorted. No upsetting discussion, no worrying about the finances. I'll have a respectful cremation when that time comes. But life is for the living, and I'm enjoying every minute and relaxed in the knowledge that everything is covered.
Get your free quote today or ask for our free guide. Call our friendly team or search Pure Cremation online now. Pure Cremation funeral plans cover the cost of everything needed for a pure cremation. You'll never have to pay a penny more, no matter how much funeral costs might rise in the future. Pure Cremation is Britain's most trusted funeral plan provider, and we've received over 30,000 five-star reviews.
I've always loved a big family get-together, but I wouldn't want to put my family through all the stress of organising a funeral. Pure Cremation takes that all away and gives my loved ones the time and space to arrange a good send-off when they're ready.
Our friendly UK-based team are here to help you get started and answer any questions. Call free now on 0800 470 2389 or search Pure Cremation today.
Welcome back. It's 27 minutes past 11. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew and Miriam.
He can't help it, can he, Donald Trump? He makes so many headlines. He's been so rude about European politics. He's weak, Europe is decaying, and he's been very rude about the Mayor of London.
I think he said we're facing civilisational erasure.
I think he did. Well, he's not the first senior American politician to say so, is he? I mean, J.D. Vance has been banging on about this for quite a long time.
Mike Parry, just to remind people, Stephen Pell. Well, J.D. Vance made that extraordinary speech when he came to you and read the right out to all of them.
Exactly.
Called the French.
Exactly.
But I mean, a country of prostitutes and cheese eaters.
Well,
but those Europeans sat there with their jaws dropping.
I totally agree, but
so direct about
yeah, but it's hard talk, and the hard talk needs doing, because from that side of the Atlantic, what they see, for instance, that 363,000 young, intelligent, bright people in the United Kingdom have fled and gone to either Italy in the Middle East and been replaced by 300,000 people of little skill coming into the United Kingdom, many of them breaking in illegally, and what they're saying is your society turning round? Are you getting rid of the talent for the non-talent? And what will your country look like? What will your continent look like in 25 years' time?
But Mark,
and thank God they've rung the alarm bell.
What is supremely ironic about this is the most successful country in the world when it comes to immigration is the United States of America. Give me you're poor, you're tired, you're hungry.
Yes.
And it actually boomed. But what's the
but the circumstances were so different.
Well, I'm sorry. The single most important thing about what Trump is saying is ever since Eisenhower, Roosevelt, Truman, Kennedy, America has always been the backstop for Europe. We have actually had a pretty good deal under NATO when America... What's happened now is America is now going back to the 1912 America splendid isolation theory. And we're going to have to actually defend ourselves. In Poland today, they're actually building along the border in preparation
and spending
for a potential
5%,
Russian incursion.
Spending 5% of their GDP on defence.
But that is the single most important thing.
Under America's
I totally agree. The American attitudes there are. Now, you said, America was built on immigration. Let me tell you this.
Of course it was.
If you went through Ellis Island and you'd come from Italy or Ireland...
You got sent back if you had a bad chest.
You got sent back if you had flat feet. You also got sent... Yes.
If you had TB, I know.
You also got sent back if you couldn't prove you had somewhere to live and if you couldn't prove you could support yourself for 6 months. You got no help from the state and you were told, unless you find somewhere to live, you're on the next boat back. Tell us where you're living. But just imagine if we put those rules down in this country.
But Mike, that was only after the Alien Exclusion Act when they had the so-called yellow peril thing. Up until then, anybody could come in through Ellis. And don't forget, we had no immigration controls in this country at all until 1912. Anybody could come to this country at any time, anywhere, from anywhere. And we had no immigration controls whatsoever. And the problem is the basic, decent, liberal instincts that people have been actually stressed to such a point that they've fractured and broken. And that is why people like Bardella and to a certain extent Maloney and to a certain extent people in this country are now actually going with the grain and saying, look, enough is enough. With the best will in the world, we cannot take everyone.
No, but we are taking everyone. That's the problem. The Americans are saying, what are you doing about it? You know, I mean, I'm not sure that Trump's figures are accurate, but he says he's deported hundreds of thousands of people and wants to know why in Europe we're still opening the doors and saying, no, come on, we're the breadbasket of the world.
Very traditional white working class voters who traditionally voted Labour, who are deeply, deeply concerned.
Well, I've got no argument
in our community.
You know, I have to say, I've defended the Labour government and the Labour Party on many an occasion. In this case, I agree with you. You're absolutely right. But this Trump is nothing new. Eisenhower deported 2 million people under a thing called Operation Wetback, when he used to shave the heads of people. And
then people who came across the Rio Grande.
You know, so they've been doing this for a long, long time.
Yeah, well, yes, but I'm saying we should be doing it. We've never done it. All we've ever done is said, come to our country, come on, let's change the whole culture of the United Kingdom.
I don't think anybody's ever said that.
Well, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing.
Merkel, remember, she started.
Exactly, of course she did.
She started the rock.
It was a guilt trip, wasn't it?
Was.
Well, don't forget, it's Prime Minister's Question Time at midday, and we have Charlie Peters and Gloria De Piero who want your questions for the Prime Minister. So send them in to gbnews.com/yoursay.
You're Britain.
Candlelight is a trusted brand in candles and home fragrance. You'll find Candlelight in most garden centres, independents and other retailers across the UK. Looking for that perfect finishing touch for your home? Candlelight has been bringing style, luxury and beautiful fragrance to homes for decades. From elegant candles and room sprays to reed diffusers and wax melts. And now introducing our fragrance bath and body range for your holistic experience. Support local. Discover Candlelight. Available now at your local stockist.
This Christmas, unwrap your festive favourites.
Your wish is my command.
It's go time. Enjoy more of the latest blockbusters.
What do you say? Do we have a deal? Count me in.
Feast on Paramount Plus at no extra cost.
Amen.
And get 2 view tickets on us to enjoy a wicked night at the cinema.
I'm obsessulated.
Believe in the magic of movies. Join or upgrade this Christmas.
I love your place.
Thanks. Could you grab some carrots?
Sure. What's this?
That's for Pepper.
You keep dog food in your fridge?
It's not dog food, it's fresh pet. Real meat, real veggies.
That you feed your dog. So it's dog food.
You were so right about her.
Visit freshpet.com to find your nearest supermarket.
What a match! Jeff White Motors Cardiff has over 500 cars in stock. It's quality. A new state-of-the-art showroom with no buyers or admin fees. You can drive away in 60 minutes or buy online. What a fantastic result.
Nathan, you're missing all the action.
It's game on at Jeff White Motors. Jeff White Motors, it's the site you can't afford to miss.
Discover comfort and style at Home Store Interiors in Swansea. As a Blue Badge holder, you can enjoy VAT-free reclining chairs and much more. Visit us today for the best in-home comfort, tailored just for you. Home Store Interiors, where everyone feels at home. Home Store Interiors. Gosainen Road, Swansea.
Welcome to Havren Furnishers in Llanidloes. For over 50 years, our family have been helping customers turn their houses into homes. Here in our 70,000 square foot showroom, we've got the biggest brands and quality to match. Always with free delivery. With a helping hand from Havren, you'll find what you love, here in the heart of Wales. Visit our showroom or go to havrenfurnishers.co.uk.
Good morning. The top stories. A new report from the National Audit Office shows that fewer than 1 in 10 asylum seekers whose claims are rejected are actually deported from the UK. International talks to revolutionise how the European Court of Human Rights handles migration cases begins today. The British government's urging partners to modernise the way states tackle the continent-wide illegal migration crisis. Appearing before MPs on the Treasury Select Committee, Rachel Reeves says the decision to freeze tax thresholds was taken together as a team with Sir Keir Starmer. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, also confirmed the Treasury is reviewing its security in the wake of the leaks that happened ahead of the budget.
He's not the sort of journalist who... It was not an off-the-record briefing, it was a leak. You're really clear it was a leak. I'm absolutely categorical that that was not an authorised briefing. It was incredibly damaging and frustrating. That is why we have a leak inquiry. It was not briefing that was signed off by me, any of my ministers or officials. It was unacceptable. That is why there is a leak inquiry going on.
Those are the headlines. For now, more from me at 1 o'clock.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Welcome back. It's 24 minutes to 12. You're with Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So I love this. France presidential frontrunner Jordan Bardella, the polls suggest he will be president next year. He's only 30 years old. He's national... What are they called now? National...
Rassemblement National, something like that.
Yeah.
Rassemblement National.
The old National Front.
Yeah.
But he is moved to forge an alliance with Reform UK leader Nigel Farage. They had lunch this week and they're going to sort out our borders.
Well, another country that has definitely managed to sort out their borders is Hungary. And last week I sat down with the Hungarian Prime Minister's political director, who's called Balázs Orbán, no relation of Viktor Orbán, but he is his right-hand man. And I asked him all about Hungary's approach to immigration. Take a listen to this.
Well, it's the greatest civilizational challenge right now. Well, I can remember 2015, we didn't know too much about it, just from one day to another, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people started to march across our country. And we realized this is something not normal, so we have to do something. And we realized that these mass migration flows are not opportunities, but like serious challenges and actually dangers. It's completely the other way around how it was framed by the liberal elite. And if we look around, we see that the neighborhood of Europe is extremely fragile. There is population boom. Millions and millions of people are desperately willing to enter the European continent, and Europe cannot handle this. So very quickly we realized that something has to be done. And then the Prime Minister decided to build a border fence and change the entire system, the legal system, and the border protection system at all. And we stopped in a couple months' time the influx of the people.
So you have physical fences on your eastern borders that stop people essentially entering the country illegally?
Yes, and also we have a legal system which is protecting the borders as well, and it's equally important, the legal framework, because according to the liberal framework, which is followed by the international organizations, followed by the European Union, it's also pretty much the same in every single Western European country. Actually, you get rewarded if you can make it to enter the country illegally, because the entire system is about that. First you have to move on, of course, risk your life, give money to the smugglers, but finally get into the country, and then if you are in the country, then you can apply for an asylum, you can knock in the door, but you have to be in the country. So actually the entire legal system is rewarding those who are trying to break in. Exactly. So, and this system had to be changed. And in Hungary we are saying that you have to wait outside. You are not allowed to enter illegally. If you do so, we are in a very polite way, but also in a forceful way, we escort you out. You can apply from outside, but you don't have any right until you get the permission to enter. If you don't get the permission, then you are an illegal and you have no right to spend one single day on the territory of Hungary.
Now, this has drastically reduced the number of illegal immigrants and asylum seekers in Hungary. But what I suppose the Liberals would say, what the left would say is, these are people who are fleeing persecution, they're fleeing wars, they have nowhere else to go. The rest of Europe is taking these asylum seekers. Why isn't Hungary playing its part?
Well, first of all, if we talk about justice, if we again look around in those areas, Middle East, Central Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, there are like tens and tens of millions of people who are suffering more than those people who are trying to enter to Europe. And if there is a moral responsibility, I think there is, but the moral responsibility should go to support those people who are at home or in a neighboring country and looking for shelters. And I think the Western system is not effective enough. The international humanitarian system. It's a big NGO, it's liberal, everybody is pushing the same ideology forward, but they don't do too much about with the people who are there. So this is about justice. And the second is, like, we realize that these immigration communities completely changed the landscape in Western Europe. So it's like, it's about who you are, whether you want to remain Hungarian, whether the national community has the right to defend itself and maintain its very special and unique cultural identity.
And you can catch the full interview on GBN Originals if you go online. And it was a fascinating interview because we also talked about Ukraine and the Hungarian position, which, to start with, was maligned by the whole of the EU. But now, you know, we're starting to see, actually, Ukraine is in a terrible position now after 4 years of war. Negotiations now are not going to be favourable to Ukraine, whereas perhaps they could have been in 2022. So, you know, it's quite a nuanced position. Anyway, do watch it. It's a real eye-opener.
It's on Hungary's border.
Well, exactly.
So
they do not want a border with Russia. It's a big deal for them.
Now, just a reminder, friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll for free by scanning the QR code now. We're asking, should sick people, there's a big flu outbreak, as you know, wear face masks at work? The results are in, and we can reveal that 35% of you say yes, 65% no, they shouldn't. That's quite a...
I think that's the closest poll we've had this week.
It is. Would you wear one at work?
I wouldn't wear one at work. I can see, if you have a cold and you are well enough to go into work, but then you're coughing and sneezing and spreading germs all the way around the office, that is quite difficult, isn't it? You don't want to infect everybody.
I think if you are coughing and sneezing, you shouldn't be in the office.
You probably shouldn't, but what if you have a job where you can't work from home?
Well, there is that.
Yeah, well, I think that's an interesting result.
It is an interesting result. Now, if you want to become a friend of GB News for free, here's how you do it.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Now, still ahead, the Chancellor is up before a committee of MPs talking about the extraordinary shower of leaks in the run-up to the budget. We'll give you the best bits all day on GB News. There will be one or two good bits. But first, if you want that holiday sun, here's the forecast.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy thundery downpours will continue to affect Cyprus as we go through tomorrow and into Friday, but this unsettled weather, it is going to ease as we head into the weekend. And actually, across many other parts around the Mediterranean, it's looking largely fine. Some decent sunshine to be had as well. Slightly different story, though, across much of Spain. A few outbreaks of rain around, and there is a band of rain sweeping in from the west, so that's going to turn things a bit wetter across Portugal and western Spain as we head towards the end of the week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. It's GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer will be taking questions from MPs later in the House. Let's cross live to Gloria De Piero and Chris Hope in our Westminster studio. Good afternoon or morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you believe there's only 2 PMQs left before Christmas? So it couldn't be more important for you to get your questions sent in.
That's right, we've got a great team here on PMQs Live, a great panel joining us. Andrew Barry, the former Tory minister, and Catherine McKinnell, of course, who was also a former minister, schools minister in the Labour government. They'll be joining us later to watch PMQs with us, but please do listen in and send us your questions.
Well, thank you very much, Gloria and Chris. Looking forward to that. Do keep sending in your questions. That's
Not
coming
obvious
up at midday.
today, what if you were the leader of the opposition, what to go on. There's no obvious story, I don't think. Pubs is a big issue, I think.
Yes.
The National Audit Office report, which shows the asylum system is in meltdown.
Yep.
But of course, Starmer will just come back and say it wasn't much better under the Tories, and he'd be right.
Or perhaps the grooming gangs inquiry, because
Yeah.
of course the Conservatives on Monday put out their own
They did.
terms of reference, and now this new inquiry will not report for, well, 3.5 years, we think.
Pointless, isn't it? It's just ridiculous. Now, this new report from the National Audit Office shows fewer than 1 in 10 asylum seekers whose claims are rejected are ever deported from the UK.
Well, it goes on to find that the Home Office has no idea how many asylum seekers have gone missing since arriving in this country.
And the cost of supporting people seeking asylum has hit at least £5 billion, but on top of that, there's many additional costs, such as legal aid.
Well, we're joined by the head of campaigns at the Taxpayers Alliance, Elliot Keck. Elliot, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. Were you surprised by any of the contents of this report?
No, I don't think anybody that's followed the British asylum system and the structures around the British asylum system would have been surprised. I think 9% would have been 9% of people removed in the period tracked over the last 3 years would have been about the number that most people would have landed on. It just shows how complicated our system is and how bad we are at removing people that shouldn't be here.
Because the Home Office will come back and say we've deported 50,000 people with no right to be here since the election, but we never know who they are or where they came from or where they've been deported to. They don't give us any detail.
Yeah, and that's a broader problem with the immigration system. Unfortunately, there's nowhere near enough data. Actually, there is an MP, Katie Lamb, today that has got a 10-minute rule bill, which is going to try and make it the data available, much more data rich. That's something that is desperately needed. We need to know who is here, why they're here, and where they're being removed to. But I think what we need is more certainty in the asylum system. There's so much uncertainty when people come here, what their status is and what we're going to do with them. I think we need to make very, very clear that if anybody arrives illegally, they will be detained and removed, and that will give them certainty, that will give taxpayers certainty, and that will give the whole system the certainty that it needs.
Now, Elliot, very briefly, because we are in the run-up to PMQs, you will have seen that last week it was announced that Brits now pay more tax than even the French. What's the Taxpayers Alliance response to this?
Well, it is worth saying the overall French tax burden is much higher, and as your viewers will know, you pay tax on the price of your pint, on the price of your cigarettes, on the price of your petrol, and much more beside. But yes, if there's one thing that the French are now doing better than us on, it's income tax. And Miriam, a part of the income tax system in France that you will particularly like is there's actually tax-free allowances for each child and full tax transferability of the personal allowance. So you are significantly incentivized to have families in France because you get a much bigger tax-free allowance. That's something that maybe we could be copying here, but it is disappointing to see, but it is worth saying that we still just about pay less tax than the French overall.
Elliot Keck, thank you very much.
And there is this Home Office statement which says that they have removed nearly 50,000 people with no right to be here. They say it's a 63% rise in illegal working arrests and over 21,000 small boat crossing attempts prevented this year.
Well,
that's what they say.
That's what they say.
And I think
Jordan Bardella has other ideas.
Very sceptical about that.
Well, still to come, Kemi Badenoch is about to take on Keir Starmer at PMQ. Stay with us for the build-up.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Storm Bram is now clearing away, and whilst the strongest winds have started to ease, it's worth bearing in mind there will still be some particularly wet and windy weather around, potentially even stormy weather across some parts of Scotland in particular, particularly towards the north and west. Heavy bursts of showery rain and still some strong winds continuing through much of the day. A drier story